Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Clearing the 7 Windows to the Soul, the 7-week journey to apply the psychology of the chakra system for healing and awakening. I'm Lisa Bunnies, and I'm really looking forward to hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Anodea Judith and address questions about her upcoming 7-week course, Clearing the 7 Windows to the Soul, which begins Tuesday, August 13th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate in this course even if you can't attend the live sessions. But first, I want to introduce our guest. Anodea Judith, PhD, is a worldwide spiritual teacher and the best-selling author of the seminal Wheels of Life, A User's Guide to the Chakra System, and 8 other books. As a yoga specialist and somatic psychotherapist with trauma specialization, her work is a unique combination of techniques useful to therapists, coaches, teachers, and those on their own healing journey. Anodea is the founder and director of the teaching organization Sacred Centers. She holds a master's degree in clinical psychology and a doctorate in mind-body health with advanced yoga certifications. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions. But first, I want to welcome Anodea, who's going to begin our call by leading us in an opening meditation. Welcome, Anodea. It's always so good to see you.
It's always good to work with you, Lisa. Again and again, we go through these questions, and we have offered these courses many times, and I want to welcome everyone who has taken time today to be on this call. I know here in the U.S., the Democratic debates are happening at this moment. I hate to be missing it, so if you're missing it, thank you for that dedication, and if you're listening later, that is great too. I would like to invite us all into a meditation to begin to come into alignment in our own internal chakra system. So take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, close your eyes and let everything settle down toward the earth. Notice how the exhalation lets your shoulders fall earthward, lets you settle deep into the chair. A few more breaths, just settling down from your day, letting go of all the things you've had your attention on, and pulling your attention to the inside. And the most basic thing we can do to begin to bring our chakras into alignment is to anchor the roots down out of the base of the spine, anchor them down into the earth, and simultaneously lift the crown up toward the heavens. So roots down and lift the crown, I like to say. And that pulls the spine apart, stretches the vertebrae, gives space in between. And like a necklace of jewels aligned on a string, when you pull the 2 ends of the string apart, the jewels start to line up. So first just feel that lengthening in your spine, lifting in the crown, but simultaneously pushing down into the earth, pushing your sitting bones into the cushion or chair you're sitting in. And imagining that there's a little ball of light at the base of your spine that's going to come right up your center as you inhale. Inhale it all the way up to the crown. And on the exhalation, imagine it goes all the way back down to the base of your spine. As you inhale, draw it up again, like an elevator going up and down the elevator shaft. And exhale, allowing that ball of light to go down chakra by chakra, down to the base of the spine. Imagining that this breath, this little ball of light, is clearing out your central channel, and bringing you into more alignment. And we're going to take a moment to explore each of these 7 jewels, beginning with the jewel of Earth, the planet itself, the element Earth, which represents everything that is solid. In your body, that's your bones and muscles and the body itself. In your life, it's your home and your material possessions, your livelihood. And in the world, it's how we take care of our common ground of the earth. So take a moment to feel this earth center, almost like there's a globe spinning at the base of your spine. And since the first chakra also represents our health and our well-being, our abundance, take a moment to be grateful for all that the earth gives you. Grateful for your body and the way it carries your spirit through life. And take a breath into the lowest part of your spine and see a red sphere of light expanding on the in-breath. And on the out-breath, where there's a natural contraction, see that red light brightening. And then come up to the center of the abdomen, hips, low back, where the second chakra resides, the jewel of water. Think of all the gifts that water brings, the beautiful ocean and its waves, a stream, a waterfall, a glass of water that we drink and take into the inside of us, the water of our emotions and feelings. And imagine a beautiful body of water in your second chakra. Clear, clean water, deep and full, but calm and balanced. Breathe into this chakra, a beautiful orange light, and see it expand throughout your hips and low back and belly and sexual organs, all on the inhale. And in the natural contraction that is that exhale, see that orange brightening right in the center line at second chakra level. And then bring yourself up to the third chakra, located in the solar plexus, in the center of the body, midway between the bottom of the breastbone and the navel. That includes the ribs and the kidneys and the digestive organs. And its element is fire. So this is the jewel of a burning fire. See it as a yellow gold and think of the energy that you have. The metabolism within you, the ability to even sit upright. It comes from your will. And the jewel of fire that gives you electricity, warmth when you need it, the jewel of the sun that provides all its life-giving force for the planet. And as you take your next breath in, inhale into the solar plexus. See that yellow gold expand, the way a fire expands when you blow on it. And in the natural contraction, contain that fire and see it get really bright, hot, intense right at the core. And then we draw our attention into the center of the heart chakra area, the center of the chest. Its element is air. And this is the jewel of air, the spacious sky, the clouds, the sunsets, the air that we breathe with every breath and never run out. Just take a deep breath in and feel it filling your chest. And imagine you're filling your chest with love. And on the exhalation, you're breathing that love out into the world, which certainly needs more of it. Inhale from this field of air and fill yourself with unconditional love. And exhale that love out towards someone who needs it. Someone in your life you want to give a little healing to, a little boost, or maybe someplace in the world that needs some love and uplifting. And on the next breath in, see a beautiful green in the center of the heart, expanding on the in-breath. And on the out-breath, intensifying right at the core, that green getting still and centered and bright. And then draw your attention up to the throat chakra. The element sound. This is about communication and creativity and listening and all the subtle vibrations that make you who you are. The jewel of sound that allows us to communicate, to write poetry, to make music, to listen to music, to dance. And appreciating all the subtle vibrations within you. Inhale a bright blue and see it expand from your neck out to your shoulders. And as you exhale, draw that blue right into the core and see it intensifying. And then come up to chakra 6 in the center of the head at brow level. And here you can imagine a star burning in the night sky, a deep, deep indigo blue all around that star, the jewel of light, the ability to see beauty, form, shape, color, the light inside and outside. The eyes allow what is outside to come to our interior and stimulate consciousness. And so here, imagine that bright star on an indigo blue background, expanding on the inhale. Then on the exhale, as you contract in, that star brightens. And then finally, coming up to the crown, the 1,000-petaled lotus that blossoms outside of the crown. This is the seat of consciousness itself, pure awareness, higher wisdom, intelligence, thought, and the plane of the universal. As we open this chakra, our own mind becomes clearer, our intelligence deepens, our understanding becomes broader and more coherent. So as you inhale, imagine this 1,000-petal lotus opening, violet and white petals. And as you exhale, draw the light into the very core of the lotus and see that center of the lotus glowing with the light of your awareness. Inhale, expand. Exhale, brighten. And honor that you have each of these jewels inside you, containing deep programming for your life. And these jewels are also outside of us in the earth, the water, the fire, the air, the sound, the light, and the field of consciousness. And as we do our inner work and straighten out the chakras and open them up and clean them up, our relationship to that element in the world gets better. We become more grounded, more centered in our emotions, more clear in our power, open-hearted, able to speak our truth, able to imagine and see what we need to see, and conscious, aware, awake. That is the journey that we take together. Welcome to the Rainbow Bridge. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Anodea. That was magnificent. For those of you who joined us late, I highly recommend after this is over, go back and watch this again because that was some good stuff. Thank you.
I think it went on for a bit. I hope we have not cut into the questions, but let's see what we've got here today.
Not at all. I think it was wonderful. But speaking of questions, we do have the rest of our time together to dive into our viewers' questions for Anodea as we prepare for her upcoming course. Again, that's called Clearing the 7 Windows to the Soul, and it begins Tuesday, August 13th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 7-week course, you can visit 7windowstothesoul.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get started with your questions. If you have a question for Anodea, go ahead and type it in, and I'll be happy to read it out loud to her. In the meantime, let me go ahead and get started with some questions that have already been submitted. And let me make this sort of a frequently asked question, just sort of lumped in together. A lot of people are asking, for example, like here's Heidi's question. She's wanting to know, I would like to know more about how to identify which chakras are moving too fast and which ones are moving too slow. Other people are asking just in general, how can I tell which chakras are blocked? So can you just sort of give us an overview of how to tell?
Sure. Well, as I just mentioned in the meditation, the chakras are connected to vital elements, sacred elements, earth, water, fire, air, sound, light, and thought or consciousness. So my diagnostic system is that a chakra can be excessive or deficient, meaning that we do too much of something, we're overcompensating, or we do too little of something, we're avoiding. Like if you don't want to feel the feelings that are roaming around down in your second chakra, you might shut it down and avoid those feelings. The chakra becomes deficient, and then the energy doesn't move through very well. Or you might be overly emotional and really identify, I feel this, I feel that, and be so caught in your emotions. That would be an excessive second chakra. That can be a compensating. Maybe you didn't get your emotions validated when you were a child. And then we do too much of something. So rather than fast or slow, I like to say excessive or deficient. And both of them slow down the energy in a certain way. They slow down the flow between the chakras, moving up and down the sushumna, which is the name for the central column. So in a way, the too much, the excessive is like a traffic jam. There's a lot of cars on the road, but they're all stuck. And the deficient is like a roadblock. Now, of course, that roadblock may cause a traffic jam in another chakra. So it's a different way to look at it. But how do we tell? Well, once you learn the system and you know what these associations are, you can say, do I do too much of that? Am I compensating for not getting enough love by wanting to be the center of attention? Or am I avoiding and doing too little of it? And that's the quickest way to look at how it shows up in your life to tell. You can also feel it in the body. I believe that the body shapes itself around the chakras, around the energy of the chakras from the time we're building our body as little children, as little babies, really. We're starting to build a body from the moment we're born. And that the body will shape itself, for instance, around a deficient chakra by either like a collapsed chest could say that it's a deficient heart chakra, or really tight hips could say it's a deficient second chakra, or a lot of tightness in the neck and shoulders could say there's a block in the fifth chakra. Sometimes that's from holding too much, stuffing it all in, and you have so much in there it just wants to come up, but you don't let it, so it builds up in the neck and shoulders. So we look at what it's doing in our life, and then we look at what it's doing in our body. And there's one other way that I have found tends to reflect an excessive or or deficient chakra, and that is if you look at someone standing up sideways, you look at the line from the center of their head down to the point between their 2 feet, right in the middle. If the 2 feet are making a square, it would be the center of the square. And you look at the alignment of their body. And if the heart chakra is kind of backing off and sinking and it's sort of behind the center line, that means someone is avoiding. They're pulling away from life at that level. If it's in front, like a big belly, sometimes can be an excessive chakra, unless there's some other cause for it, like diabetes or something. But and a chakra that comes forward might be excessive if it's in front of the center line. A lot of people have their head and their neck come forward of their center line. They're always kind of looking ahead rather than pulling back and being in the present. Maybe they're coming out of themselves and not so receptive. So these are all ways that we can tell what's going on in our chakras. But first, we have to learn the system.
Okay, terrific. And we've got follow-up questions coming in. For example, we've got a question here from Trini who is asking, is there a specific chakra for focusing for extra weight? And I'm assuming that it depends on what part of the body the excess weight is.
Yeah, it depends a little bit because, if there's a third chakra issue, the weight will tend to form around the belly. If there's a first chakra issue, it'll tend to form around the legs and hips. But I have looked at weight issues in the chakras for a long time, and it's hard to pin it down to one, but I'll tell how each chakra tends to affect it, at least the lower ones. On a most basic level, it is a first chakra issue because we make a solid body to feel grounded in the world. And the bigger the body, the more we weigh, and the more gravity pulls us down to the earth. So, in some senses, it's an unconscious desire to ground to make a larger body. Some people don't want to feel grounded. They'd rather be up in their head and pull away from the earth, and they tend to make a very thin body. They don't even like the feeling when there's food in their body. So that can be an extreme in the deficient side. I have also seen people put on weight, women especially, to desexualize their body because they're tired of getting so many hits from men on the street or whatever, so they don't want to be seen as a sexual object, and they kind of put on weight for that reason. Or it can be around the belly because there's a lot of emotions that are held in. I have seen weight occur because of third chakra metabolism issues. This is our fire. And so if our metabolism is not working properly, we're not burning the food we eat. The tendency is to say, well, food gives me energy, give me more of it. And then we overeat when we're not really metabolizing or digesting well. So it can be a third chakra issue. I've known that people can eat their heart out if they have some kind of emotional issue, a heartbreak or something, and they're eating to console themselves. I've seen people eat that seems like they're stuffing something down. We have an expression, stuffing your feelings. Well, the throat is where the inside comes out. And if there's something inside that we don't want to let it come out, well, then we might keep stuffing things in our mouth in order to keep what's inside, our truth perhaps, from coming out. So any of the first four chakras, um, in general, I think it's less about the sixth and seventh.
Okay, thank you for that. That was very helpful. Um, we've got two people asking similar questions, and this is sort of going back to the conversation that you had with Stephen Dinan, the intro call. Simone says, so if I don't feel like the universe is a safe place, is it safe to assume that it's because of something that happened in my first year of life? And if I can't remember how I got this way, how can I fix it?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so I do correlate the first year of life with the basic programming of the first chakra. And if we have a lifelong pattern of not feeling safe, that would be the first place I would look. It doesn't necessarily mean it's there, but it's the first place to look. What was the circumstances of your birth coming in? How were you cared for as you came into this life? Were you one of many children and you didn't get much attention, or was there, poverty or violence in your environment? Those are the kind of things that can make us feel unsafe. However, it doesn't have to be limited to the first year. That's where we get our basic programming. But let's say, you had something terrible happen when you were 5 or when you were 10, or your parents got divorced and your mother remarried and you had a violent stepfather, and that didn't happen until you were 12 or something. That can still impact your first chakra. It's just not quite as deep and as strong as if it happened in the first year of life. So if you have a good, healthy first chakra in your first year of life, this will still impact you, but you can overcome it more easily. If you didn't get good grounding in your first year of life, and then you have difficulties later on, that's compounded. So that's the first place I would look, but it's not the only place I would look.
Okay. Well, then, let me follow up with a question here. It's related. You've actually partially answered it, but let's get a little more specific. Clea Rose is asking, I was abused before I was 18 months old, and I've overcome so much, but I kind of feel an invisible force is restricting me. The question is, which chakra is this related to? But if you can expand on this, that would be great.
Well, the chakra that it's related to would depend on the nature of the abuse. I think there is a different impact of, a child being hit, for example, or yelled at, or sexual abuse. And they all influence us in different ways. Um, in general, abuse tends to drive us out of the body. So we get disconnected from the body. And that can be true whether it's, some kind of violence or a sexual abuse. Both of them can tend to put us out of the body. And that's a first chakra issue. But of course, sexual abuse affects our sexuality, our emotions. So does growing up in a, emotionally volatile environment, getting yelled at, things like that. I would really have to know the nature of the abuse to say what chakra. But more to the point, when we have something like that, what I find is everybody wants to pigeonhole everything into a chakra. And it's not quite the way I use the system, because often if people say, oh, well, that belongs here, well, then I can just close that up and put it away. And instead, this is a map that allows us to look deeper in ourselves. So we can look at, well, what did this impact? Did it impact my heart? Did it impact my relationships? Well, then that's fourth chakra. Did the abuse impact my ability to speak up for myself? Because sometimes it does. Whether it was, verbal or physical or sexual, that can influence someone's ability to communicate. So we have to look at where the background that we have affected us, and what the problems are that are current today that we're still struggling with. And that is more to the point than, what chakra got affected at the time.
Okay, thank you. And for those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Anodea Judith, learning about her upcoming course, Clearing the 7 Windows to the Soul, which begins Tuesday, August 13th. And you can log on to 7windowstothesoul.com for all the details and to register. Let's go ahead and get back into questions here. We've got a question here from Roy, who wants to know, What are the manifestations of an excessive heart chakra?
Yes, an excessive heart chakra tends to be a compensation for either not loving oneself enough or not feeling loved enough or not having some kind of good balance between upper and lower because the heart chakra is the great integrator. And it can show up as kind of a codependence. We're taking care of everybody else, but we're not connected inside. It can look like needing to have love from everybody, like, always wanting to be reassured. Do you love me? Do you love me? Wanting to be social all the time, maybe, not comfortable being alone, but always trying to get affirmed, wanting to be the center of attention. It shows up for different people in different ways. It's not that we have too much love, but there is like too much going out, and we are vacating the self, and we're not holding that giving and receiving in a healthy balance.
Okay, thank you for that. We've got two different people asking about throat chakra issues. For example, Michelle is saying, I always have issues with a blocked throat chakra, and I've not been able to identify what truth I'm suppressing. How do I address this?
Ah, well, every time that we were not allowed to say something as a child, or a situation is not allowing it, um, we close this off a little bit, and a pressure can build up in the throat. And then it becomes more difficult to open because it's like a lot is wanting to get out of a little bitty opening. Um, the question is how to undo that. And I would say begin making sound. If you feel self conscious about that, you can make sound when you're alone in your car driving and no one's going to hear you. Make sound and sing in the shower. Make sound when you go outside and go for a run or do some exercise, or make sounds as you're doing yoga, whatever it is you do. Just start abstract sound. Put on music, put it on really loud and dance to it and let sound out of your mouth. That starts to unpack it. The next level of unpacking it would be journal writing. And just begin writing every day, and you may find things come out that you didn't know you needed to say. And there may be some kind of listening, interior listening, that needs to happen. Maybe you're not hearing your own still small voice inside. Maybe the various voices within you are not coordinated with each other. So there's so much that we can do around communication. Then the other is it, I mean, if you don't have any trouble speaking your truth, then I would say your throat chakra is not blocked. I mean, that's what we free up when we free up the throat chakra, our ability to communicate. So if you don't have any trouble, I would say that block might be something else. It might be manifesting in the neck and shoulders, but it might be something else. But if it is, that's how it shows up. And we want to just start to unpack it. We want to say those things in our journals, say them to a friend who might stand in for a parent or something. And write letters, maybe write a letter that you would never send. Things like that can help unpack the throat chakra.
Okay, thanks. We've got a question here from someone calling themselves My Eye. And I think this is kind of a modern day question that we didn't get used to get so much. But now that marijuana is becoming legal and easily available for a lot more people, we get a lot of questions. And this question is, do you believe that habitual marijuana use interferes with any of the specific chakras?
I think the key word here is habitual. And I think that habitual use of any substance, including food, eating too much food, does impact our energy body and the flow of energy through the body. We lose our clarity after a while. And that is not to say that marijuana cannot be an ally at times, for insight or for seeing something and just, getting, a different perspective. And that is when it's used occasionally and used in a sacred manner. But I think habitual use is suppressing the energy body. And after a while, that creates a lack of clarity and low foggy energy.
Okay, I think a lot of people are paying attention to that. Thank you for that answer. We've got a question here from Kirk who wants to know, what direction do the chakras spin, and is it the same for everyone?
Yeah, I get this question probably more often than any other everywhere I go. And I'm not sure where it started about spinning, other than the word chakra means wheel, and wheels spin. But first of all, the chakras are not, flat little clock faces that are on our body that spin either clockwise or counterclockwise. They are deep energetic spheres, if you will, that are spinning energy out into our world. So it isn't even necessarily as simple as clockwise and counterclockwise. However, if you look at the ancient diagrams where you see the sushumna, the vertical channel through the core, you see the seven chakras, and you see the figure-8 patterns that go in between the chakras. Well, since the chakra system comes from the tantric period of yoga, which is about combining opposites, then one of these is going down and the other one's going up. So as they pass each other, that would create a kind of spinning if we had to look at it as this clockwise and counterclockwise fashion. But what that would mean is, as this one is coming down and the other one's coming up, one would spin clockwise, the next one would spin counterclockwise, the one above it would spin clockwise again. And this is the way it works with gears. If you have gears moving together, you spin one and the cogs connect to the next gear, which spins in the opposite direction. So that seems to go with the theory of generating Kundalini coming up in a kind of undulating pattern up through the spine. So, all that said, that is kind of a metaphysical theory based on the old diagrams and the integration of the chakras. Now, my personal opinion about spinning is that it's very superficial and has very little to do with the chakras at all. Nothing in the ancient text said anything whatsoever about spinning. Um, and it's just that they were called wheels. And the direction of spinning to me is very superficial to the deep core programming of the chakra. And so trying to get a chakra to spin in the other direction is sort of like saying, well, if I part my hair on the other side, am I suddenly going to become smarter in my crown chakra? Or if I, change my clothes to a different color, is my heart chakra going to suddenly open? Well, I love to wear the colors of the chakras in my clothing when I teach, but it doesn't necessarily mean that just putting on a green shirt is going to bring me the right relationship. I think we love these kind of new age simplifications. And my work is really about getting into the core programming that we get from our childhood that influences these various levels of our life, these various areas of our life.
That was fascinating. Thank you for that. I love the image of the cogs. That was very helpful. Thank you. I'm looking at the clock here, and we have time for quite a few more questions. But before we take those, we're getting questions about the course itself. So let me go ahead and give a few details about that. Once again, the course is called Clearing the 7 Windows to the Soul. And this is going to be just a fascinating 7-week journey with Anodea and her expert guidance, where you'll bridge the worlds of science and spirituality to discover a holistic, grounded approach to working with your energy body. And the 7-week course takes place on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, starting Tuesday, August 13th. And as I mentioned earlier, if you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss the teachings. You'll receive audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage. And also, we have a private Facebook community group so everyone can interact with one another. Also, I'd like to remind everyone that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving a full 2 weeks until August 27th in this case to make sure that you absolutely love it. Also, everyone who registers receives the Clearing the 7 Windows to the Soul bonus collection. First, you'll receive a PowerPoint presentation with a recorded audio from Anodea entitled 7 Keys to Transformation. Next, you'll get an audio dialogue with Anodea and guests called Chakra Diagnostics. And then you'll receive an award-winning 28-minute video from Anodea entitled The Illuminated Chakras video. Plus, you'll get a video presentation from Anodea called through the chakras to the global heart. And you'll also receive a video teaching from Anodea entitled Charge Exercises. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Wednesday, July 31st, you'll receive this extra bonus, and that is an audio teaching by Anodea Judith entitled Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Chakras. So before we get back into the Q&A, Anodea, let me ask you, what are you most looking forward to sharing in this specific upcoming course?
Well, I look forward to teaching people this map. We try to get through our life and we're trying to work on ourselves and figure things out and make a living and take care of our children and, do whatever we do. And we don't have a good map. And this map and the way it connects into the inner world and the outer world at the same time is just fascinating for me. Once you have this map, you can use it the rest of your life. So I'm looking forward to sharing tools that you can use on yourself. Once you have the map, you know when you get out of alignment or you're off center or you're off kilter in one of your chakras. And then you have the tools, oh, well, I could do this breathing exercise or I could do this yoga posture. And that you have a way to even come to understand yourself. So that's what I'm really excited about, sharing this map with people that I've shared all over the world, and people come back again and again and again, finding it, going deeper each time.
Okay, great. Thank you. In fact, it seems like the majority of the questions that are coming in could be easily addressed by this course. So everyone, I hope you've listened to what Anodea just said. Let's go ahead and get back into the questions, though, because we're not in the course and people are asking things. Let's see. We've got a question here from Colleen, who says, why would I keep getting a strong vibration out of my back, pretty much where my heart chakra is?
Well, one thing I talk about is this, my word for it is charge. The yogis call it prana, acupuncturists call it chi, Star Wars calls it the force. I call it charge just because it's a kind of non-denominational name. And if you have that in your back at the heart chakra level, then that is a bunch of charge in your heart chakra that has either not been able to penetrate the chakra so that it's really absorbed by that chakra, goes into your lungs, your heart, your tissues, or it hasn't been able to be released. It may be something from the past if you feel it more in your back than your front. And there's something that is trying to push its way through. And my advice is to really put your attention on that area when it happens and see what you can do to allow it to move into your body. We'll learn some techniques about that in the course. They're a little too complicated for this Q&A session, but it's learning to meet the charge in our own body, and that is part of what the work is.
Okay, great. Thank you. We've got a follow-up question here to the question about spinning. Janine says, I've been taught to use the pendulum to test the health and spin of chakras. Since you aren't concerned about spin, do you use pendulums for anything? And if so, how do you use them?
I have seen many people using pendulums. I know that you can hold a pendulum over a chakra and it will start to move. I personally don't do that. I don't need that to diagnose someone. I look at what's going on in their interior. I let them tell me. And I think that some healer, just holding it over you and telling you what's wrong with you based on that, it isn't going very deep, and I like to go deeper into the core programming of someone's experience inside. I don't deny that the chakras make the pendulum spin, but I don't think it really tells us a whole lot.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's go to a question here from Malia, who wants to know, how do I know a chakra is being opened? Does it happen instantly, or does it take an emotional breakthrough or crying? And how often do they open and close?
Yeah, chakras can open, usually slowly. And if it's been very blocked for a long time in your life, then it's going to take a little work to get it to open. It opens gradually in that way as you do the healing work. Sometimes that can be cleared. The heart chakra, for example, its demon is grief. And so when we have a good cry, we release some of the blockage in the heart. Occasionally, something can happen where you are stimulated by something or an event happens that just burst your heart open, or suddenly you can, you have energy coming up into your throat and you feel like you take a stand and you speak your truth. So occasionally it might be a sudden opening. That can happen when a guru gives you Shaktipat, which is a kind of psychic energy input that can suddenly open something. But in general, they move more slowly, they adjust more slowly, and it's really an openness to that level in your life. And how do we feel it? We feel energy in that part of the body. We feel sensation. We feel connected. And we feel the things that are connected with that chakra, like love or power or, sensuality or creativity, things like that.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to a question here from Tina, who says, can negativity be treated by working on chakras?
Well, it depends. I think a lot of people think if I just tap on a chakra, this problem is going to go away right away. I take a deeper approach. And negativity, I would, want to know what someone is negative about. Where does that come from? Probably it's more in the heart. Um, that's more of a cynicism and maybe not wanting to open and trust, but it could be something in the first chakra. Someone might have been betrayed at some point in their life. And so it's a little too pat to say, well, it's this chakra, and if I just tap on this or turn 3 times around in a circle, that, suddenly I won't be negative anymore. It's more of having the chakra system be a guide to give you a deeper understanding of yourself and more contact with yourself so you can understand all the nuances of these issues, such as negativity or health patterns or difficulty manifesting or difficulty in relationship or, any of the difficulties that we struggle with in life.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up manifesting because we do have a few different people asking about just the general, how can you use the chakras for manifesting? And I know that you've taught a shift course on the topic, so maybe you can touch on the subject just a touch.
Well, most people think of the chakras as a system that starts at the base chakra, the element earth, and moves step by step up the spine. And the goal is to get to the crown and find enlightenment. And indeed, that is a very viable path. It is the path that is, most well understood in the chakras. It's the path Kundalini takes as she rises up the spine. And it is what I call the path of liberation, where we get freer and freer. We free ourselves of stuck patterns, of limiting beliefs, things like that. But there's an equally important downward current that I call the current of manifestation. And that begins in the crown chakra with our thoughts, our ideas. Oh, I have an idea. I want to build a house. And then we imagine, that's sixth chakra. We see images. We look at lots of houses. We look at lots of pictures. We look at, blueprints and diagrams and artist images of the house we want to build. So we're working in the visual realm. We go to an architect and we tell them, this is the kind of house I want to build. And we have a conversation about it. That leads into even more design. We find the right people to build the house with. We have to hire contractors and have a relationship with a bank to give us a loan and a relationship with the architect. So we find the right relationships. That's heart chakra. We have to do things to make it happen. People have to show up at work. You have to make phone calls. You have to get stuff done. And that is the third chakra. In building a house, you move things into place. You draw together boards and, I was going to say bones and muscles, but boards and windows and nails and cement and stone and roofing material. You pull these elements in from all around and you pull them together. That's the attractive force of the second chakra. You put them together in a very precise way, and when it's all finished, you have manifested a house on the physical plane. You can open the door and walk in. You can sleep there. You can cook there, and you can do all the things we do in a house. So everything gets denser as we move down the chakras. We start with consciousness and we move it down into the earth plane. I believe we need both currents, open and active. We need to be able to liberate from our fixed forms, and we need to be able to manifest from our ideas and bring them into reality down on the earth plane.
Okay, so it's not just wishful thinking that makes things happen. You have to actually bring it down into the physical realm. That makes sense. All right, let's go to a question here from, I lost it here. Oh, this is from Cindy, who says, do our auras respond to the condition of our chakras, or is it the other way around? And can we muscle test to see if our chakras and auras are healthy?
Let me take the first question. I believe that the chakras are the generators of the auric field. Just like a lamp, the light bulb might be the chakra itself, and there's a field of light around the lamp, and you can see that glow, and it lights up the whole room, but it's stronger right near the lamp. So that the aura is really showing the effect of the chakras. That said, something that comes into the auric field can in turn affect the chakras. Somebody says something to you, they give you a criticism or say something you don't like, and that might affect, you might say, oh, I shouldn't say anything, I shouldn't pull in. And then that can affect actually the state of the chakras. So it works both ways, but in general, I think of the chakras as generating the auric field. Now, what was the second part of that question, Lisa?
It was, can we muscle test to see if our chakras and aura are healthy?
I think probably you can. Again, I don't work with that. And I want people to learn to get in touch with themselves so that they don't have to use gimmicks to find out what's going on in themselves. It's like if we're looking for some outside influence to tell us what we feel, then we're not very in touch with ourselves. Better to learn the system and then say, well, how do I respond with my power? How do I respond with my emotions? How do I feel in my heart and my throat? How am I experiencing that rather than have some outer thing to tell us? Because, if somebody says, all right, you muscle test for this, that must mean your heart chakra is blocked. It really doesn't tell you much. It doesn't tell you why. It doesn't tell you what to do. It doesn't tell you how to release it. It just gives you an outer diagnosis. It's information, but doesn't really change anything.
Okay. Well, then as sort of a follow-up here, we've got a couple people asking, what about crystals? Do you use crystals in doing your chakra healing work?
I personally do not. I have many students who are into crystals and they swear by them and they give me crystals all the time. And I occasionally have worked with them and I can feel some effects. But again, I just want to say that I am into the deep programming that goes into our chakras, that comes from childhood, that comes from culture, that comes from our belief system, and how that affects what we think and feel and do. And, putting jewelry on the outside of ourselves in crystals or whatever, I don't feel it changes that deep programming. It's like, I love to get massage. And, the massage helps me feel good for a few days. And then my own deep core programming, well, what do I know? A week or two later, my shoulders are tight again. Until we release that core programming, these things are more superficial. So I don't deny that they have an effect, but that's not my work.
Okay, great. Thank you. We got a question here from Suli who says, do chakra colors change as we are always changing and shifting? And I'm glad she asked this because I have a friend who does chakra readings who says that he sees that the colors are sometimes different. They're deeper, they're more pale. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We use this rainbow correlation to the chakras because it's the wavelength of visible light. Red light is the slowest, so there it corresponds to the first chakra. Orange is a little faster, second chakra, yellow, etc. And we see this all over. And it's a nice way to have a mnemonic for the chakras, but it doesn't mean the chakra is that color. In fact, in the ancient texts on the chakras, they are described quite differently. They don't have the rainbow progression. And when I have done, for a long time, I used to do psychic readings on people's chakras. And I didn't see that rainbow progression much at all. I might see some black in somebody's chakra. I might see brown. I might see, upper chakra colors like purple down in their root chakra and red up in their upper chakras. So I think they do change. I think they change according to how we feel and what we're doing. They brighten, they dull. Um, and they are not necessarily those colors. Now, there was a famous study called the Rolf study in which there was a psychic looking at a person who was going through the 10 sessions of Rolfing. There was some, little gizmos on the front of their body that were measuring the galvanic skin response on the surface of the chakras, and they were looking at the wavelength, and then the person was getting Rolfed. And by the end of the 10 sessions, and also when the psychic said she saw blue, there was a characteristic waveform on the paper from the machine. And when the psychic said she saw red, there was another kind of waveform. So they had some correlation there. By the end of the 10 sessions, what she saw was that the chakras reflected this rainbow progression all the way through. Well, we know that Rolfing brings you into more deeper alignment with yourself in your posture, in the way you hold your body. Rolfing also works on the connective tissue, which is electrically conductive. And so as we get into better alignment, the energy is moving through. So it makes a lot of sense to me. So we could see the colors as sort of an ideal, but not so much an actual.
Hmm. Wow. Huh. I just learned something new. I'm looking at the clock here. We're out of time. This has been just a fascinating conversation. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your terrific questions. Once again, Anodea's class is called Clearing the 7 Windows to the Soul, and it starts Tuesday, August 13th. And again, you can visit 7windowstothesoul.com to learn more and to register. And Anodea, before we let you go, do you have any final words for our viewers?
Well, I just want to invite you in taking this course to go on a deep exploration. People find my work life changing, and a deep exploration of yourself, not a quick fix formula. And I've worked with the chakras for 45 years, and I've worked with them as a therapist, as a yoga teacher, as a body worker, as many different forms of healing. And what I've gleaned over all these years is an understanding of these deep patterns of the soul. I call it the architecture of the soul. So if you really want to meet yourself on a deep level, if you really want to learn a system for transforming yourself on a deep level, the chakra system is something that can serve you lifelong. And come for the deep journey. And I invite you to join me on the Rainbow Bridge.
All right, beautiful. Thank you again, Anodea. It's always such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Lisa. Great questions. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yes, once again, I want to thank everyone who joined us today. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great night, everyone.